let's talk about how to use a food scale and why it's so important. So with our goals, we can either have a goal to gain muscle, right? Change the shape of our body, get toned, which means we need to be eating enough calories. Or you may have a body fat loss goal, which means you need to be able to eat a certain amount of calories that's in a deficit. And if you're overeating, we're not going to see that goal of body fat loss, right? So making sure that you are dead on with your calories every day is a big deal, because way too often I'll have somebody say, I am doing everything. I am tracking, I'm measuring, I'm weighing things, I'm still not seeing body fat loss. And this is going to be a really good tip to hopefully help you be as accurate as possible. We are going to talk about the difference between volume, which is using measuring cups, which I feel like most of us use because it's easier. Volume is just how much takes up space, right? Versus weight is what a scale will tell us. So we're going to look at the difference between volume and weight and why that can throw us off, and we're going to, in essence, be eating way more calories than we think for anyone that has a body fat loss goal. Or even if you want to stay at maintenance, right? This is going to even put you higher into a surplus. So it's really important to understand the difference between volume and weight. Now, I'm going to show this with an example of nuts. So with these nuts, we're going to look at the back of the label. It says in this bag, we've got one serving size is about an ounce, which is 28 grams, which is about a quarter cup. So this will be really easy. So this quarter cup says it should be 170 calories. Now, there's a word about. That means there's trial and error. They're estimating that, and when it says about a quarter cup, because it determines on what nuts you put in there, right? Which I'm going to demonstrate for you. They could be the smaller nuts, the heavier nuts. Every nut weighs a different amount. So right even there, it tells you about, could be anywhere from 120 to 250, depending on the nuts that happen to be put into the measuring cup as you pour them. So they sound kind of like ridiculous little details, but I'm going to show you how that adds up. So with that saying, we're going to say, I want one serving size to eat. It's going to be 28 grams or 1/4 cup for 170 calories. So if your goal is 1,500 calories for the day, you'll say, great, one serving size out of 1,500, I'll deduct that 170, and then we'll just keep deducting food as you eat it throughout the day. So that's why you can look and say, if I have 1,500, how many nuts do I really want to eat? Because 170 adds up very quickly, right? How many serving sizes do I want to deduct out of 1,500? Because that's going to leave me a lot less food to eat later throughout the day. Also keep in mind that as we're doing this, sometimes you'll have serving size is 13 pieces. Now nuts, it doesn't, because there's such a variety of sizing. But let's say on a Cheeto bag, you'll have 13 pieces. About equals 28 grams. So Cheetos can also come in different shapes if they're shorter, broken off, longer, thicker, or thinner. So don't ever count an item, because that item is not 100% the same every single time. Again, these little things add up. So with this, we're going to look at a quarter cup. I always suggest, again, deciding ahead of time how many ounces you want for your serving size, because I have a tendency to just overeat. I'll open the bag and I just pull handfuls out. And especially if I'm in the car, if I'm distracted, I will always eat way more than I would intend on eating. And the fat grams in nuts and a lot of other foods add up very quickly. So this is why it's so important to calculate ahead of time how many calories you can take out of your daily goal. We're going to show you how to measure it, and then you're not going to go over your goal. You're going to feel satisfied, no guilt with how much you ate, and it's going to be filling because it's an appropriate amount for your calorie goals each day. So with that said, let me show you how to use this scale and the difference between volume and weight to make sure your numbers are hit correctly. So over here, on a scale, it will either measure in pounds or kilograms. I got this one from Target. I have an Amazon link for anyone that wants one off Amazon. One thing you want to look for is it will say 0 or a T for tear, and that's important, and I'll show you why. Because we have our measuring cup we have to weigh, because we need to know how much to deduct for that. So it says it is 30 grams, so that's good to know. So I'm going to hit my T for tear or my 0, and that will take me back to 0. So now when I add my nuts, I will have an accurate determination of how many nuts I can eat. So with this, we're going to pour them in. And as you can see, there are some that are bigger. There are some that are smaller. I want to make sure I'm getting enough because I am hungry. So honestly, I would probably say that. Now, should we take one or two off to be more accurate? Yes, but when I'm hungry, I want to make it as much as I can in there to count for my quarter cup. So I would leave it about that. You see that number? 37 grams. So let's go back to our label. One serving size at a quarter cup should be 28 grams. So if I just took this quarter cup and dumped my nuts in and then walked away and said, great, I'm going to measure my nuts only using this measuring, I am actually, oh my gosh, look how many grams it actually is, 37. That's a massive difference when the label says a quarter cup should only be 28 grams, but that's measuring the volume, how much space it is, right? We can overfill it like I did on purpose, but in actuality, I'm hitting 37 grams. So when you look at between 36 to 37, I'm like right on the border, it looks like, when you add that 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So take the difference between 37 and 28, times that by 9, you're now a couple hundred calories over from something as simple as how much you put in the cup. So now I'm going to take these out until we hit what should be a serving size. Okay, so now we can go a little bit more. So if I'm doing this, right, I say, hey, I want some nuts as a snack. I'm gonna put my cup on, I'm gonna zero it out. I'm going to then add them one by one until it hits 28. So now you can see that's not even a full cup. I got plenty of space in there in this quarter cup that I would have assumed I can fill with more nuts because the bag says quarter cup is accurate for a serving size. So that's why it's so important to put your cup on first, zero it out, and then add nuts. And then you can see, oh, that one put it to 29. I only want 170 calories. That's what my goal is, and that's what the bag says. So that's why it's so important not to just dump and fill the volume of a measuring cup, assuming it is 28 calories, as we found it was between 36 to 37. It was right on the line. And so instead, I'm going to continue to add them until I hit, see, 1 cashew made it 30 grams. That's 18 extra calories. I minus this 1 cashew, I'm less 18 calories now. This thing, 18 calories. That's a big difference. So make sure to add them onto your cup. Make sure you get the right serving size to match the bag and your allotted calorie goal for the day. So now let's look at another example. Let's say I want to do a meal that has multiple parts. So we're gonna zero this out. And I'm gonna show you how I do a meal because it's a pain of like, well, how do I measure my berries and my yogurt? It's sticky, and my nuts. I'm gonna show you how to make it super easy so it's not intimidating. First, we're gonna gather our bowl, which is gonna weigh obviously quite a bit. You're gonna tear it out by hitting 0. And now this is taken out. So now I've got some goat milk yogurt. I'm gonna add, let's just say 1 scoop, right? Because I know ahead of time that I want so much. So, depending on your calorie goals and your serving sizes, you'll be able to check the back of the label of how many grams is 1 serving for 100 calories. So this right here is 43, and I would continue to add more yogurt and yogurt and yogurt till I hit 170 grams, which is 1 serving size of 100 calories. So I'm not going to continue to do that because I don't want to use the whole jar, but we would continue to add yogurt and yogurt until I hit 170, which, as we see here, our serving size is 170 grams. So you would want to continue to add more yogurt to hit 170 there. So let's say we've done that. Now it's like, okay, great. I've got my grams here. Now I want to add my berries. So I'm going to zero it out again. And then I come to my berries and I know ahead of time I want, let's say, see how much this adds up. There's 15 grams, 14 grams. Let's say I want to hit 20 grams. So instead of just estimating, I'm going to keep putting them on till I hit 20 grams. So I have extra that I'd like to eat, but I'm only going to want 20 grams. Ooh, yeah, there we go, 20 grams. So I'm going to keep adding 20 until I hit that. Ooh, I'm at 21. I don't want 21. But now I'm at 19. So it depends on the size of the blueberries, right? So that's about accurate. So this is why you can just play with it, okay? I'd rather be a little under than a little over. So then I say, great, I want some nuts in my yogurt. But how many nuts, right? We can just add a whole bunch of nuts and then it doesn't give us any idea. Well, let's say I've already determined, because I know what I'm doing, that I want a certain amount of grams of nuts. So I'm gonna first, let's minus that one up. You're gonna tear it out again, right? So now we're back to 0. So now I'm measuring just the amount of nuts. So I'm gonna add nuts and I'm gonna say, okay, I want 6 grams. So there's 5, so now we're getting close, and you see how fast this adds up. Keep in mind, every gram is 9 calories. So, okay, I'm at 6 calories. So if I decide I want 6 calories, times that by 9, you're at 54 calories for just this much. If you have 1,500 in a day, that 54 calories of just the nuts adds up fast. So you can see the difference of, okay, let's say I just chop nuts and throw them all in, or if I wasn't measuring, that doesn't look like that much of a difference, but it's gone from 6 grams to 13 grams. And so instead of 54 calories, you would take 13 times 9. That's a lot more calories, and it doesn't even look that different. That's why it's so important to do one layer of your food, tear it out, do the second layer of your food, tear it out, and the third, and know ahead of time how many of each of these in grams you need to hit the total calorie for that meal. And as like I showed you, like a single nut, a whole nother gram. If we add a few more, it looks like it's right on the edge. If we add a whole nother nut, a little bit larger, 14 grams, that's another 9 calories because fat grams have more calories. So one little thing makes a big difference. Take off a large one, down to 12. So be really careful about your serving sizes instead of just eyeballing it, especially with nuts. So another one that's hard, we'll start this over, is peanut butter. How do you measure peanut butter, right? So my suggestion with peanut butter is this. I have my peanut butter and I'm gonna place it on the scale and it will tell me how much is there. And then I'm going to tear it out, right? Because it's so hard to know, like, how do I measure peanut butter? And then I'm gonna take a scoop and it's gonna tell me it's negative 24 grams. So this tells me this is how much I've used. So now you know automatically, okay, you know what? I didn't want 24 grams because that times 9 is how many calories? A lot. So I'm gonna put a little bit of it back. Okay, great, 11 grams. That's closer to the goal. I wanted, let's say 11 grams for my meal. I can calculate that times 9, so how many calories that is per gram. And I know exactly how many calories to deduct from my daily total goal. So this principle can be applied to any food that is frustrating to, like, how do you measure that out? Put it on your apple slice and measure it. It's a pain. So it's good for you to see how many calories are in each actual gram of items we're gonna eat. So let's wrap this up. So hopefully this has helped in understanding that calories add up so much faster. As you saw by adding a small handful of walnuts that to me barely looked like any. I didn't even get a small walnut chunk on all of my bites, and I want a piece of nut with every bite. I would have just easily added more because it doesn't look like that much, right? But then you saw how the amount of grams changes so fast. When we understand that with our macros, 1 gram of protein and 1 gram of carb is 4 calories each. So when you add up 4 calories, 4 calories, 4 calories, depending on how many grams you're eating, that's gonna add up very quickly to take out of that total 1,500 for our day. Fats though, 9 calories per gram, over double. So that's why we have to really pay attention when we're eating a lot of dressings, avocado, cooking oils, fats that are in meat, peanut butter, nuts, they add up very, very quickly. And there's a lot of foods that also have higher fat grams. So it's important to say, okay, serving sizes, how much do I actually want? And then you saw the difference in our peanut butter scoop, right? I didn't feel like when I pulled that out, it was that big of a peanut butter scoop. But when you calculate every gram by 9 calories, then you can step back and say, I have 1,500 to spend for the whole day. How do I want to spend that? What food do I want to put on that 1,500 calories? I can either eat quite a few more carbs, quite a few more protein for that same amount, or because it's double in calories amount, I can have 1 scoop of peanut butter. So you kind of look at how do you want to spend those calories all day? But you see the difference now of the importance of using the food scale, zeroing it out, helping us build meals. You know, you can add things and add things, just zero it in between. And then you can then say ahead of time, I know the serving size of each of those ingredients, just like we showed. Also the difference between estimating, even though it said a 1/4 cup is a serving size, do you see how many extra hundreds of calories the nuts were when I just put them in there, and how much I had to take out, which wasn't even at the surface level to actually equal what they say was a serving size of 170 calories. So you can see how quickly when we just use volume, we're gonna be overeating and not hitting the calorie goal we have for the day. So Again, I know it can be a little bit time consuming, but once you get used to all these foods that you eat and that you can make them, like I will figure out the calories and everything, serving sizes for meals I make often. I know what I want. I know how to measure it. You'll just get into a routine. And if you don't want to track calories forever, that's great. But if you're in a fat loss goal, right, in a deficit, it's so important because you have seen how easy those calories add up. So hopefully that helps. Keep in mind, we were using grams because the labels we had were serving sizes in grams. You do the same thing for ounces. I'll include a few links that help you translate, because sometimes in your tracking app, right, MyFitnessPal or Macros First, it's going to tell you, you can select ounces or grams, and you're like, well, wait, but I measured it in this, but it's only allowing me to enter this. We want to be able to convert easily. So I'll have some links for you to very easily convert those, because the easier this is, it's a great tool, the more likely you are to stick with it.